Welcome to learning unit number 1, the first full learning unit. So after our introductory unit, I wanted to make sure that you saw the assignment tab is now available. But all you're going to see in it right now are the discussion board grading rubrics. So let's just take a moment to go over what's expected of the discussion boards. Now, I know this was in your syllabus, and I appreciate that you've all read thoroughly your syllabus, but I just want to make sure that you know that this is worth each week that we have a discussion board, it's worth 30 points. And the discussions open on Monday and they close on a Sunday. That said, your initial post is due by Friday evening at 11:59 p.m. The reason for that is that you will need to reply in some of the learning units, you will need to reply to a peer. And if everybody waits until Sunday, it just doesn't work out. Believe me, I've tried. So the initial post is due Friday evening at midnight. Your initial post should be substantial, like more than 200 words written, and you should be citing a scholarly reference within 5 years in APA format. Now, that said, some of your references, your citations, can be from the content of the week. I want to make sure that you have time to complete the learning assignments, so you don't always have to go looking for a new source of information. Use what we have. Sometimes it's great when you add a new source, but that's not always possible. And then at least one reply to a classmate's post is required each week. That should be also substantive. Um, so like at least 100 words. Can't be just good job. And that's nice to be positive to your peers, but that's not the case. Here's the actual grading rubric. So you can see that there are 5 criteria, and then the highest in each criteria is 6 points. So it equals 30 points. So I wanted to share that with you to make sure that you see that. And that's all you're going to be able to see in assignments. Now, every week you can see your other sources of information. But let's go on to learning unit number 1, where we're talking about illness versus disease. You're watching this video right now. And then as every week, we have the topics, what our objectives are, and what our learning activities are. So this is the impact of chronicity. And we're going to talk about what's the difference between chronic disease and chronic illness. And we're going to do that really by especially looking at chronic illness, by looking at those living with ME/CFS. Now you're going to figure out in this class what that stands for, but chronic fatigue syndrome is the common name. So you're going to you're going to read what I'm going to show you is one short article, readings for class one, that's going to be posted. You're going to watch a TED Talk, and that's Jen Bray, and she suffers from ME/CFS. So I want you to hear her experience, because chronic illness is the person's experience of the condition. You're going to go on to the Center for Disease Control site, and you're going to read an infographic about could you have ME/CFS. But I want you to read it in the way of could your patient have this? And you're going to watch a video after you do the readings and you become more familiar with some of the terminology that's used. I want you to watch the video. It's an excellent video. You're going to complete quiz 1 and you're going to do the discussion board, both post and reply. So it's a full week. The readings are an excerpt that comes from Fundamentals of Nursing book from 2024. And it's only a couple of pages, but this is where you're going to get the information that you need to take the quiz and to do very well. What's the difference between chronic illness and disease, some conditions of chronic conditions. So that's the readings. Everything is here for you. This is the TED Talk with Jen Bray. I think you're going to really find it, I guess, a little bit upsetting of what some young people have gone through and middle-aged people have gone through with ME/CFS. But I want you to, she shares her experience, and it is an important one to hear. Now, here's the Center for Disease Control's website on this topic, and you're going to see myalgic encephalomyelitis. Myalgic encephalomyelitis. So it's also known as chronic fatigue syndrome, but we're going to call it ME/CFS. And you're going to learn some basics, some key points, and the wording is pretty, the terminology is pretty easy to understand, so this is a good one to start with. And then at the bottom of it, there's going to be an infographic about, could your patient have ME/CFS? And I'm going to have that available to you in another link. So that's the CDC webpage. Here is the infographic that I told you about. Could you, or if you're looking at it, could your patient have ME/CFS? So you're going to need to know some of this information for the quiz too. What are the symptoms? And here you're going to read about post-exertional malaise, PEM. So I want you to understand that term because it's going to come up in the video. And the gentleman the professor who's done the video doesn't always explain or define some of the terms. So here are the symptoms, and remember there's also other symptoms that are listed here. So this is just a short infographic, but I ask that you watch that or read that, excuse me, and then you're going to go on to this video. And again, the video is really informative, but if you have read this information and watch Jen Bray's TED Talk, you will understand the terms that are being used in this video. So watch that last. The quiz is a 10-point quiz, and it's going to have, you're going to need to read the information from the readings, and so the readings that came from Fundamentals of Nursing. And then it's also going to have some information about ME/CFS from these sources too. So that's the quiz. It's going to be, the time is not limited. You have as much time as you want, but you will have to complete it in one sitting. And then there's the discussion board, and you can click on here and you're going to see what you do need to do. So you're going to post a response by Friday, and then you're going to reply to one of your colleagues by Sunday evening. And this is what you're going to do. First, compare and contrast the terms chronic disease and chronic illness. And then I want you to share a summary of the information that you learned about ME/CFS from the different learning assignments, including some of the experiences Jen Bray shared in her video. The readings of this week will really help you best understand the difference in the terms chronic disease and chronic illness. So you will not be able to see other people's posts until you first do your posting. And then I want you to start using, if not this week, if not this week, I want you to start using APA citation next week. I do not expect perfection by any means, but yet at the same time, you will be learning and improving week after week. So get that APA the Easy Way book and start putting in a citation, and you're going to do both in-text citation and references. So after week one, I'll go over again in week two about some of the ways that you can do the in-text citation and the references. But give it a whirl. Please do. Okay, it's been 10 minutes. I've given you some of the content. I'm going to let you complete that and have a wonderful first learning unit. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to send me an email, call me at my office. I've also given you my cell phone under the instructor information. Have a great week.